All right. And can you maximize it? Maximize the, yeah. Just maximize. No, just the zoom. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you guys. So, as always, this is our Wednesday meetup where we talk about something pertinent. You know, ever since I said the market's crashing, we have a lot less people. But who knows? I hope we go back to the moon. Before we go to that point, let's just do what we normally do. We start off. We're gonna quickly just take 15 seconds, say your name, and please. This time, let's say, how do you think? What is your favorite way of taking profits? So my name is Sims. My favorite way of taking profits is into USDC.
Hi everyone, I'm David. This is only my second time on crypto, so I don't really take profits. I trade probably 3 times a year. So yeah, but I guess it would be as and when the market's done, it would probably be something with a yield like USDC.
My name is Alec. I'm really new in the crypto. Further?
Yeah, further.
Okay. So to be honest, I never took yet any profits. I'm learning, I'm listening how to take those profits every 25% and all of those ways how to do it. But I'm on the way to do that.
Hi, my name is Chance. I have some strategies to usually take it on the way up, obviously, and recently I've been taking profit in UST.
Hi, I'm Michael. Usually, if it's short term, I USDT. If it's long term, USDC. For some reason, I like to stay in USDC than USDT.
Yeah, great. My name is Fabrice. I'm just like you, Michael. Short-term USDT for the liquidity, but so many shadows around that. Usually I cash out in USDC. Yeah.
What's the question? What's your name and how do you take profits?
Oh, my name is Mo, and I haven't taken profits yet. This is all new for me. This is my initial investment, so no profits yet.
Hello, my name's Mandy. I'm very new to crypto. And I've not really made any profits yet, but what I have done is accumulated more tokens. So that's all I've done at the moment.
Good morning, I'm Nick, and when am I taking profits? Kind of on a percentage scale, really, instead of token price action, and UST into Anchor Savings Protocol with a 20% yield.
Oh, Nick, you're adorable. My name's Sam, and my profit-taking strategy is like what old mate over that James was saying. Jens, okay, Chance. Oh, that's completely off what I thought. Is into the UST and then basically just having 3 different sort of portfolios, right? One that I'm keep topping up, one that I'm using to generate more for more trades, and one into a saving and dip bag. So that's my strategy.
What? That's good.
Mark and I take UST.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leona. I usually take it in USDT.
All right, so before we go deep into the profit-taking point, yes, I took a bunch of profits. Yes, I took them before Bitcoin went on its proper bull run right now. Not like that's been my strategy the whole time. As soon as I hit a target, I'm going to take profits. If I see the traditional markets going a certain way, and I see crypto doing something exactly opposite, For me, that's a point of concern because traditional financial markets are the ocean and crypto is a drop in the bucket. So, what I saw and what we're still seeing happen, kind of hinging on or continuing on, okay.
Let's take Google.
No, I think we have it here. And actually, let's share the screen. So traditional markets are doing this. There's a stock market, but there's also many indices. They're bleeding off hard. There's profit taking going on in a major way, and it's been happening for the last month. Crypto is having apparently we're supposed to go to the moon by the end of this year. We're supposed to be at 100,000 by the end of this year, while the other markets are going downwards. And usually, to me, that seems like a bit of a fake out. So hopefully we blast past all-time highs and we're all in price discovery and things go to the moon, and I'll be right back on that ship after all-time highs. But at this point, I had enough signals to tell me, hey, take some profits. Because one of the biggest mistakes most people make is not taking profits, because we just sit and wait and we're told that everybody's saying it's going to go somewhere. Logically speaking, if you're a market manipulator like the hedge funds and all the big players out there, that's their job to figure out what you think is going to happen and then actually basically do a rug pull from underneath you. So that still applies for me. I'm seeing things tumble downwards while crypto's going upwards. So let's see what actually plays out. How do I move this?
Are you sitting on the side at the moment?
Pardon? Yeah, I'm sitting on the side and watching. Because we've been in a lot of this stuff since last year. So if you're sitting on like over 500 in profits, and we got to a point where things recovered enough, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit and hang out, let somebody else play this game, and then as soon as I get a good entry point, and as soon as I get enough data to tell me that something isn't going completely wrong, then I'm happy to enter back in. Because for me, what we saw in, just to reiterate, what we've seen in previous cycles and what just happens, what's classic on the Wall Street cheat sheet, which I always have open because I go to sleep to it and I wake up to it, is we have our kind of blow off top, and then things recover and we're kept in a state of complacency and hope. Right now, this is what I hear right here. What I'm hearing, according to sentiment, is we're all going to get rich. We're all going to get rich. When everybody's saying we're all going to get rich by a certain date, I think we're here. And that's what happened in 2013 twice. That's what happened in 2017 twice. So it's giving me deja vu of like, yeah, everybody is going to get rich. That's exactly when everybody doesn't get rich.
Good question. Is it not a very different space from 2013 and 2007?
100%.
In terms of the retail investment institute, it feels like it's a very different world of 4 or 5 years ago.
It's a completely different world, but this is human psychology. This applied in the tulip mania hundreds of years ago. This applies just everywhere, because this is just market psychology and how it's tricked into getting people. This doesn't change, unless this time around there's been a shift. But for me, when the same patterns from this start to play out and the data starts to point towards things playing out exactly according to this again, I get concerned. I'm really hoping it isn't. I'm really hoping that what I'm seeing is, we're somewhere down here and now we're going to have this final bull run. I don't know, maybe we're just in a hope stage, but all the psychoanalytics are saying we're actually right at the edge of the belief stage, and we go into the euphoria stage for a moment before the profit taking happens. Right? But let's see what plays out over the next little while. My thing is, I had profit, I took it. I'm not worried about the 30% I missed. I never calculate what I missed. I always calculate what I actually locked in and what I put into my pocket, right? And that is a very important thing to think about. Taking the profits is the only moment you make any money. Not sitting in a rally and missing something, you didn't lose anything, technically. Okay, sure, if you get out and it just leaves without you and you never get an opportunity to get onto it again, yeah, you have less coins. That is a missed opportunity. But for me, at this point, I have enough profits that I need to lock them in. And for me, I feel like we're at the complacency stage. For right now, everybody's thinking that we're here and we're going to shoot up, and by the end of the year, everybody's going to get rich. But I'm thinking we've gone through this motion because that same pattern looks like it's playing out. Where, in 2017, same thing. We had a top, we had a recovery, then things went lower, and then there was a bounce which made us think, okay, this thing's going back to the moon, but it didn't. And the same thing plays out in 2013, the same thing played out before that. So right now, I think we're here. This was our 53, now we're back to here. Now, if we shoot past all-time highs, this whole theory gets invalidated. At that point, I get back onto the ship. This?
Crack forward, that big red there.
Yeah.
Is that the main crash?
Yeah, so like this for me was May.
Yeah.
This for me was May, And I was hoping that was not the case. I'm 100% a perma bull long-term in crypto, and I always wanted to go up, and I was hoping that it would go up. At that point, we had a 50% correction, and nobody wanted to talk about it because 50% corrections are bear markets, statistically speaking. Then now we had a recovery back up to, what was it, like 40 something, and everything looked great. Then we went back down. Now we're back up to like 57, 58, and we're bouncing around that zone. Now there's probably going to be a correction that's going to come down. So in that zone, we're kept in this like kind of hopeful state. Now after that correction, if things shoot off and we go back into price discovery, then that wasn't the top. But it's just we've had 6-7 months of this, and this is perfectly how you would execute an exit pump, especially on the broader time scale. So I'm still in that same state.
Yeah. What's your view on the time scale? Because it's played out in a much shorter time frame.
Exactly. So that's where I think this is much more like the 2014 run, where we're having, first of all, the entire cycle is lengthening simply because of how many participants we have, how much money we have, and the fact that now it's coming to an adoption stage rather than just being a speculative stage, right? So in 2013, remember, we went through that cycle, which was the same thing, went up, came down, we had a bit of a dead cat bounce, and then things bounced around, and then we thought everything was over, but then the next thing that happened was the actual bull run. So I think this bull run goes well into 2022. At that point, we would have the kind of results that we were expecting to have by the end of this year. But again, this is just my opinion. This is just my conjecture. My thing is this.
If we talk about the period of time,
Yeah.
how does that go with the every 4 years time?
So how does it go with the every 4-year cycle? Do I think the 4-year cycle is done? I don't think the 4-year cycle is completely done. Like it doesn't just disappear. But instead of having years-long bear markets like we've had, where things just kind of trended sideways and nothing happened, everybody forgets about crypto. I think between now and 2024, we're going to have 10 times as many people onboarded into the cryptocurrency world. So I think
it's just fading. That's easy.
Yeah, like I think we're going into the adoption phase. So we're not going to have this super drawn-out bear market. I think we're going to have a much more extended bull market. And then when the correction happens, it should happen much quicker. And then on the other side of that, we'll have another kind of bull market phase. But I think those things are going to be tied around a few different things that we're seeing in the market. Number one, stocks and the traditional markets, they're running out of steam. I don't think it's going to crash tomorrow. I definitely think it's going to correct, probably bounce for a bit, then go up, and they'll pump more money into it, and they'll keep that dead horse going as long as they can. But within the next 4 years, we're going to see a massive, massive correction in the traditional markets. That could very well be linked to these bear market cycles, or at least, what I'm seeing is this should have caused some kind of a short-term bear market in crypto, and it hasn't. And normally that's the case. That's one factor. Another factor is regulation. Regulation that's coming out is going to definitely crush a lot of cryptocurrency that's out there. But one of the biggest grenades that's sitting inside of crypto that none of us wants to talk about because we just love crypto so much is US dollar Tether, USDT, right? It's so concerning at this point, especially and you think like the stuff going on in China and all these things are completely separate, but there's some rumblings going on that show like, no, all this stuff is connected together into one big shit pile, and we're going to have to pay the price at some point, especially if you didn't take profits along the way. So here's why. Crypto used to be bought with money. And I mean, dollars aren't really money, they're fake, faux pas money, but we consider it money. So they used to be bought with dollars. Somebody had to actually put in a certain amount of value to go and buy some crypto. And then when we would sell it for dollars, and we would have to put it back into our bank accounts. That was the old days. You know, when stablecoins came out, when Tether came out, gave the possibility of you being able to, first of all, invest using stable coins, but also then take profits and put them back into stable coins. Now, the whole point of a stable coin is it's a coin that's equivalent to a dollar, right? So each coin should have a dollar backing it. Like somewhere they should have a dollar that they hold. You give them a dollar and then they print a tether and then they give it to you, so then you can go and participate in the world with it, right? That was the idea. That's what we thought was actually going on. What actually has been going on is Tether has been, first of all, Tether started by scammers. They've ran many scams before. You know, when you look at the team who runs a project, it tells you a lot, almost everything about what that project's going to do. Tether is run by scammers. Do your own research on this. They've been sued many times before, and they've ran other scams before. They came along and they said, okay, first of all, they promised everybody we're backing this $1 to 1 tether, but they weren't. When the authorities oppressed, it's turned out that they actually have been using financial products to create the value of Tether. So now let's just look at how important Tether is to cryptocurrency in general. Tether, last I checked, is over 60% of the liquidity that exists in crypto markets. In simple terms, what does that mean? Over 60% of all crypto that's bought is bought using USDT, which is Tether. It's paired, yeah, like because you have to go to markets to buy it, and people go to USDT paired markets, and you need USDT to buy it, right? So there's when you're looking at a money, you got to look at its effect and how much of it exists. And then how many transactions is it doing? What's the velocity of money? Okay, so if I have $10, but I make 10 transactions with it, then I created $100 of purchasing power with that $10. Does that make sense? I have $10, I bought something, and then that person bought something else, and that person bought something else, and that person. Now that $10 was able to buy $100 worth of stuff. Now, is all of that stuff worth $100? Not really. It's actually $10 repeated again and again and again and again, right? That's how an economy works, that the velocity of money and the amount of money will determine how much GDP or prosperity is generated within that economy. When we're looking at Tether, the amount of Tether that exists, and then the velocity that it's being used at, so how many transactions are being made by it, they actually create a much larger amount of actual value in the system, in the cryptocurrency world, than how much Tether exists. And how much Tether exists actually doesn't have any value backing it. So effectively what we're saying is we're taking something that's not worth anything realistically, and we're using that to buy stuff that's supposed to be super, super valuable and inflate up the prices. And then we're saying the price of that thing that I just bought is real. That's like me taking like rocks and buying gold with it. Or, I mean, gold has intrinsic value, but like buying a house with it or something, and then jacking up the value of that thing according to the thing that I bought it with. So I'm not explaining it very well.
Well, it's because
Yes.
it's been utilized so much, it has just generated mass belief behind it. But yeah, currency, it's mainstreamed and in circulation for so long, it's just been taken as read that that's how it is.
Well, that's the thing, like,
Value behind it.
you know, the same way we know the US dollar is backed by nothing, right? We all use it.
Yeah.
But the day we all run to the banks and say, hey, give me all my dollars, give me all my value, they don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's actually valueless because it's literally backed by IOUs, right? The US dollar is backed by nothing, and all the currencies are backed by the US dollar. Therefore, it's one big Ponzi scheme that we're living. You know, it's only backed by the fact that we choose to use it and we trust it, right? The exact same thing applies to Tether. So this is the issuance of Tether. But why is this just open on its own?
Are the authorities going after them?
They will. I mean, they have already tried to, not that they've tried to, they've kind of mentioned it, and then they keep giving them bypasses. And that's why it's clear that, first of all, they're leaving this as a grenade in the crypto markets. So when they want to pull the pin, they can crash the whole thing, because their goal is to always crash crypto and get people to lose as much money as they can because they didn't take their profits, because they're going to panic and think this is the end. This is not the end. This is the beginning, right? Same thing. What was it? MTGOX gets hacked. This is the end of crypto. It wasn't. If you bought it then, you're a billionaire today. CME futures came out. That was apparently the end. How does that make any sense? And that wasn't the end. Coinbase IPOs, that crashes the market. What? Like, oh, apparently it was Elon Musk crashing it. Like, all these things are completely useless, but they need these pins to really rattle the markets, because most of the retail holders, they're holding crypto, especially Bitcoin. We don't want to let it go. So they have to have these black swan events effectively to terrify people into selling. So this has been the actual issuance of Tether. Okay, there was almost none of it. There was single-digit billions of it until 2019, and even until 2020, I think it was like 4 billion or 5 billion or something, right? There was almost none of it in the system, and up until that point, they were kind of playing the game of, hey, this thing's backed by dollars, so they couldn't just print billions of dollars, because you have to find out, hey, where did these billions of dollars come from? Right around when they started getting investigated, they just went on a rally of printing Tether, and they've printed it up to, I think now it's at about $68–70 billion. And when you look at the printing and the issuance of it, it's just issued into thin air. It used to be that it was issued when there was demand for it. Now it's just being issued even when the demand is dying off. They're just issuing Tether like nobody's business. So authorities went, hey, you said you have $70 billion of cash somewhere? We'd like to take a look at that, because like, you're officially now, if you have $70 billion of cash, then you are the fifth or sixth largest bank in the world, and you just kind of popped out of nowhere, and within the last year you're saying the biggest bank, and we don't see the money moving because we know when $70 billion moves. So can you tell us what it's backed by? They got sued, and they kind of held off on the sidelines, and then eventually they released this pie chart as the only breakdown of what they have in their reserves. Okay, and they're supposed to have dollars, but apparently they have 3.87% dollars. They have 65% commercial paper, which, anybody know what commercial paper is? Neither do I. It's fuck all. Okay, it's basically, it's IOUs from companies saying like, it's debt from companies. Okay, but wait. Yeah, like US companies haven't issued that much debt actually. Okay, well, let's wait. The other one's fiduciary deposits, another financial product. Reverse repo notes. Okay, and treasury bills are equivalent to cash. So they have like maybe 5% real cash. Cash or cash equivalents, we don't even know what that is. It could be anything. I don't know, a car is a cash equivalent. Secured loans, corporate debt. Corporate bonds, corporate debt. Other investments. So most of what they own is corporate debt. They basically, and now it's becoming clear, hey, we didn't see $70 billion of corporate debt flow to Tether in the Western world. So there's one place in the world that has that much corporate debt, and we all know the name of it now. China. It's been China. You were close. So that's what's been going on the whole, and my approximation, that's what's been going on. Chinese debt, junk debt that will never be paid back, has been used to back the coin, which is backing all of cryptocurrency. Not all of crypto, but most of cryptocurrency transactions in the world. So you're taking worthless debt, corporate debt, and then you're backing the best investment vehicle there is. And the day these hens come home to roost.
So who owns Tether? Is it American or Chinese, or who's the team?
They're set up in an offshore company. Yeah, it's like some child star who came up with the idea, and they're Americans, but they're proper scammers. And they've been known to transfer 900 million to one of their exchanges that was having some issues, and they kind of and what they're doing is they're actually taking all of the Tether's value and they're trading it on open markets and then they're making profits off of the bonds and the secured debt.
Like the EOS guys too, right? Some guys.
Yeah, basically. But that literally has been backing cryptocurrency, all of crypto. And the best way that I can discredit crypto, if I'm the powers that be, is I would tell you, hey, guess what? It's all backed by shit. The value of what you think is valuable, this asset that you think is super valuable, it's backed by nothing. Okay? So when you actually look, so then it's also an interesting correlation that at the same time that Tether had this meteoric rise in its printing, we've seen, first of all, these are the exchanges that get most of the issuance of Tether. So FTX, Binance, Bitfinex, which I'm pretty sure that's their exchange, and this is other. Okay, so those exchanges are backed by Tether. That should be concerning. If you're using those exchanges and you think those are the best exchanges, those are backed by shit. So be careful about using those exchanges themselves. And FTX is the best trader exchange out there. As a trader, you simply can't use any other exchange other than FTX. But that's concerning because most of the issuance is going to them.
I saw a video today that said Binance does the most amount of volume.
Of course.
And the most amount of volume with USDT.
Of course, yeah. Binance, that's why Binance is leaps and bounds ahead.
Exchanges combined,
yeah.
I just took the separate Binance, it's still more than the other exchange there is.
Exactly. Now, this is DeFi, our golden child. We love DeFi, decentralized finance. The finance here to completely revolutionize the traditional financial system built for us by us, right? It's the one that's going to give us freedom. And the centralized finance is just going to let us. They're just going to be like, go ahead, invent the new finance, no problem. Take all the money out of our system, take all the trust. We won't cause any problems in that. This is why I see a conspiracy theory playing out here. Conspiracy playing out here. And you know I'm a hardened conspiracy theorist. So this is the issuance of Tether, the market cap of Tether. This is the TVL, the total value lock in DeFi. And it's been going higher and higher and higher. This is the amount of USDT in DeFi. So as they're printing more of this scam coin, then we're all getting these insane returns, like 60% returns, 108% returns on things inside of this new golden financial system. That sounds like a Ponzi scheme, right? And they would let that happen to make sure that people get tricked into going into the system, and then later on they come along and go, see how much of a scam this was? Now we need to regulate this thing, and we need to control everything that's happening in DeFi, because guess what? They backed it by fake dollars. So you know what? We're not going to allow anybody to print dollars, step number one, because we're sick of people printing dollars. And we're not going to allow anybody to do finance. So we're going to control finance completely. And then they're going to connect it with whatever's going on in China, and all of it's going to come together as one big pile to say, see, this is why we need to control every door. This is why we need to make sure accredited investors are allowed to invest in the right spots. When we're saying regulations are going to come, this is the kind of regulation that's coming down the pipelines, right? Because up until now, crypto has been this wild, wild west. And we were like below $1 trillion and everything's fine. Nobody really cares. As soon as we hit the $1 trillion mark, we went onto a global stage. And we've known about Tether for years. We've been talking about this for like years and years. Most people who've looked into it know, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But they've kind of ignored it and left it, and they keep giving them little fines here and there to be like, hey, it's okay, this thing's backed by whatever, whatever. While at the same time, they've released USDC, which is their own coin effectively that they're making, that they're connecting, that's not made by the gangsters, it's made by the banksters, right? It's made for them by them, and they're connecting it to all of their crony buddies, and they're gonna give it regulatory clarity they sued them. The one that's legal, they sued. And they put a lawsuit out against it, because that's how they give it regulatory clarity, because they'll pay a little fine and then now they have the regulatory clarity. The one that's actually illegal, they're not suing. And they're making sure that that's the one that they actually just kind of keep on the edges with little fines and things. But this is one of the biggest grenades that's sitting inside of crypto, and the day they decide to pull this one, it's going to take the entire crypto market down with it. And on the other side of that is going to be so much bloodshed from average investors that they're going to use as the reason why we need to give control of crypto to them. This is as clear as day. So I don't know. I like, it could happen tomorrow, but it could also, I mean, it would be wise for them to use that as the end of whatever this bull run is, you know? So if it's truly in December, I mean, the timeline that I can say is going to be before November of 2025, right? It's a pretty broad timeline, but in order for them to take complete control of the cryptocurrency sphere, they have to build out a new system of control. And the new system of control is the ISO 20022 ecosystem. And now the Federal Reserve has said that they're going to be using that, and I posted that in the group. But the plan is to basically build that new system, which allows 100% control of every node point in the world. And by node point, I mean every bank account, every point where value moves to. And then go and crash cryptocurrency, or at least pull this pin on it, and actually say, hey, this is the reason why we need to have complete control of everything, because you guys are idiots and you're not allowed to invest because you invested in a scam in the first place. You invested in a Ponzi scheme. Anybody who has profits that you're taking and you're sitting in USDT, you're effectively sitting in a coin that they will never be able to pay you out in. It's a Ponzi where like you have to get in and get out and make your money and get away with it, because if you're the one left holding the bag, it's not going to be worth anything. I mean, we were seeing the Ponzi play out in China, where there were these amazing companies that were the biggest property developers in all of China, and all of them are now destroying average investors because they invested in them, and now they're not backed by anything. They can't get anything back. Now, do I use USDT? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, transitorily, I need to use it because it's only, like you said, the liquidity in the market is so high that I need to use USDT to go transition through to get to somewhere. I'm not saying you just completely like become an evangelist against it, but just know that this is coming. That's why I'm so paranoid about taking profits, because for me, I'm like, look, I'd rather get it now and know that I locked it in than to like wait for some day later on and just have this golden-eyed view of what's going on. The world is a crumbling. The entire world around us has been brought to its knees. It's for the last 2 years, and now it's about to really start showing the cracks in the works. The US dollar will take about 10 years to crumble, 15 years to disappear. Cryptocurrencies will take the next 10 years to become the de facto system. They will run everything, not just cryptocurrency. Blockchain as a technology will fundamentally run everything. If it is the thing that's going to run everything, they're not going to let us have it the way that we have it. It's not going to be the way that we remember. Within the next 4 years, we're expecting 1 billion people to be onboarded into crypto if it keeps growing at the rate that it's growing. And it's been growing faster than the internet, so it'll probably grow even faster than we're expecting it to grow. But between now and 2024, when we expect the next bull run to come, I don't expect this to be here. And here's what I see happening. I see every single person giving financial control of their assets, of their everything, over to their central governments, and having to use central bank digital currencies, which they've developed for us already. And those currencies will be the only system that you're allowed to operate in as a person. And the asset side they'll make sure they push you out of assets as much as possible. Everything from real estate to gold to cryptocurrencies. The goal is to get you out of assets so they can own all the assets. So, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And one of the biggest ways they're going to do that is through this thing. For cryptocurrency in the short term, at least this thing. By short term, I mean the next few years. Because this is clearly a scam that's going on. And as soon as that happens, then DeFi goes down with it. And DeFi is going to create massive, massive waves of problems across the world, because that's what's going to give over control to them. And when that new system comes alive, all of this stuff will not be allowed like this. And just want to make sure I'm not missing something.
So can we say safely that this bull run that we are all waiting for is the last one that we can all ride freely?
I think so. Yeah. The way that we've had it, yeah. This will be the single greatest prosperity generation event in history. And it's still going to happen, I think I get misquoted as thinking like it's over, this thing's done, get out completely. I'm sitting on the sidelines hoping that it continues further. But this is going to be the biggest and the freest wealth generation event we're ever going to have in our lifetimes. The next one, hopefully we're allowed to participate in some capacity, but I see so many regulatory roadblocks coming in the way, especially if you're an American citizen or you have certain, deficiencies like I do. So get out of it what you can. Don't get greedy. Don't try to sit and think that I'm going to make ridiculous amounts of returns and just leave it be for some point in the future. That's what people did at the beginning of this year. Remember, things shot straight up. We had these parabolic runs, and most people just sat there and watched it crash back down. And then some of them sold at the bottom, and then they saw it go up again, and then they watched it crash back down again. Now we're watching it go up again. And we're probably going to let it crash back down again. And this is just how the game goes. And then one day they're going to pull some pin. I don't know, stock market crashes, some black swan event happens. They decide to pull the tether pin. Something's going to happen along the way that's going to crush most of the value in this market. Most of the most of the altcoins will not exist. There's 12,600 cryptocurrencies out there. Most of them will not exist. Like statistically speaking, 90% of startups just fail. That's just a fact of life. Out of the 10% that survive, 90% are created by people who actually have made successful startups before. And when you're talking about the startups of money, then you have to even look at like, who are these guys? Which cartel are they part of? Are they part of the banking cartel? Because then they're going to get to run the banking thing. Are they part of whatever, like supply chain cartels, which everything in the world is run like that. And those are the ones that are going to survive. All the rest of them are probably going to die along the way. And it's easy to ignore whatever's going on in China. I don't think like Evergrande is the thing we should be focusing on, because when they tell you to focus on something, that's actually the facade. But when you look at the rumblings of what's going on underneath, I see that coming to crypto through Tether. Because as soon as that debt, it's clear now that that's not backed by anything. And now they're finally, they've actually started the investigations to come after Tether to see like, hey, what is Tether backed by? And now they're going to dig down deeper and find out, oh, guess what? It was backed by Chinese debt, and Chinese debt is completely worthless, and China couldn't care less. They'll let the US denominated debt die. They're happy to kill the US dollar, while we're the ones who are sitting on the other side with our life savings inside of this thing, and we didn't take any profits, okay? Yeah.
So how does this compare with USDS?
USDC.
USDC.
So
All of them, they are stable coin. Right?
that's a great question. So let's compare it. Yeah, like how does it compare to USDC? Both of them are stablecoins. Let's even compare it to UST, right? We got some UST fans in the house. So all I want in a stablecoin is something that's backed by something, right? Something stable, something reliable that I can come back to, that I know the value is there, right? USDT is backed by faux pas financial products. It's debt, and debt doesn't get paid back in the world that we live in, right? USDC is backed a lot by debt too, but not complete. It's not completely dollars. It's a significant amount more dollars than. So let's pull up the numbers. Can you type in USDC breakdown? Racial diversity, no, that's not the one. There we go. So these are the USDC reserves. Debt, 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 and debt. But they're backed by good debt, high quality debt. It's still debt. It's still not like, it's just American debt instead of Chinese debt. So the CDs, collateralized debt obligations, commercial paper, corporate bonds, and the municipal bonds. All of those are effectively IOUs saying that they'll be backed by something. US Treasuries is IOUs from the US government. IOU. I promise that I'll pay you back. Yeah. Yeah.
Just on the cash and cash equivalent, 61%, again, that's still all entangled with this at the bottom, right? Includes bank and government obligation. So on paper, it still looks solid. So cash equivalent is also a bit of a trickery because on paper it looks substantial, but it's still, banks and government obligations. When this system collapse, it will has no value whatsoever, or it will go down pretty quick.
Even cash is worthless as everything, right? So yes, this is also technically a Ponzi, just like our entire life. Every single thing we do, we work for paper, which grows on trees. They got us. They scammed us really good, So this is just a better scam, but it's a much more reliable scam that they built for themselves, that they're giving regulatory clarity through their people, and they're going to make it so that out of those two, this is a way better one to sit in because they're not going to crash this one. They also don't have a narrative around it, and they've sued them now. They've sued themselves effectively to give themselves the regulatory clarity. The same thing they're doing with XRP, so that then on the other side, it's effectively, it's not it's been pardoned from all the stuff that's going on. But to be honest, the actual IOUs and the debt that's on here is higher quality debt. The whole world is run off of debt. This is American debt. That's Chinese debt. Secondly, this is built by them for them. Yeah.
So the USDC, this one is audited monthly by an American auditor, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe USDT is just the company disclosure. There's no audit on there.
They've never allowed an actual audit. Yeah, they basically, they promise that they have it, but they won't let anybody check it. These guys get audited and they're regulated, and it's a company, it's a public company. So they're gonna actually, they're under much more scrutiny as far as the validity of their holdings. Now, there's another sorry, go ahead.
Did you do the same with UST?
Yeah, it's just backed by Luna.
Yeah, one of the USTs. So is that not a better?
It is. So let's talk about UST. UST is a stable coin that's backed by Luna. And the entire liquidity and the value of Luna is either burnt or the UST is burnt to make sure they maintain the peg of a dollar. Fantastic system. It's decentralized, no companies are running it. That's one of the biggest reasons why I don't think it's going to survive. Because they don't control it. Like, who makes US dollars? The Fed. Yeah, and they're banksters.
I don't know the language.
Yeah.
But the whole thing of Terra Labs and the whole network and Anchor and all of that, it kind of just feeds itself. So it's really decentralized and a perfect algorithmic stablecoin.
It is. It's a perfect algorithmic stablecoin. It runs itself. It's actually one of the best implementations of a decentralized stablecoin I've ever seen. It's fantastic, but it's not made by the banksters.
Ironically, the same system in play. With the current financial situation, the fiat currency is all backed by debt, and yet DeFi and fucking crypto comes along, and it's all backed by this fake debt in a sense. Like algorithmic stablecoins, it's the same system.
Yep.
It's the same thing. This is just one that they don't control.
Yeah.
This is the one that actually has the better use cases and the better technology moving forward. And it's like, yeah, hang on a sec, we want some of this.
And that's precisely why I see them saying things like, okay, well, we need to make it regulatorily compliant because you guys are printing money. Yeah. Who's allowed to print it? We are. Circle is, because we allowed them to. Some of our crony friends will be allowed to create stable coins. Maybe we allow Facebook to create it. But you guys are decentralized. There's no central points of control. People could get hurt. It could be backed by certain things. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. there's a high likelihood that there's some kind of bigger plan going on that allows centralized ecosystems like that to exist, but they will be brought under the purview of the system itself, because no matter how much value you generate in an ecosystem, when you want to spend it on food, you need to go through the banking system, and that's never going to change. And that banking system is going to be the place where they lock things out from. Now, there's another stable coin called PAXG. It's backed by gold. It's actually a gold-backed stablecoin by Paxos, which is also part of the banking cartel. You know, they've actually made it for themselves. So that one, they're again auditing. It's 100% backed by gold, physical gold. Yeah, they actually have like reserves, and you can claim your gold, and they'll burn the token and actually send you 1 ounce of gold for each one of the tokens. Right? What's that called? PAXG. Right? Now, they are using paper gold to manipulate the price of physical gold. So even though you're sitting in gold per se, they can still manipulate the price wherever they like. So is there any super safe place to be? No. Like, you can go to US dollar, which Ponzi. You can go to UST, Ponzi. You can go to USDC, American Ponzi. You can go to UST, decentralized Ponzi. No, I'm just kidding. These aren't all technically Ponzi's, because, like, you know, they do have innate value from because
no matter what, everything is based on that tether. And when tether collapses, the whole thing's going to go.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good the algorithm for USD is. Doesn't matter what happened with USDC, the share market. Yeah. The whole thing's going to collapse. But my question is, like, when that collapses, what's actually left? Is there anything left? Is Bitcoin?
Yeah, all of them are going to be left.
It's going to exist, of course, but it's going to be actually value with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. There's all these amazing coins. Luna. All of them have innate value inside of them, and their value is that they add value to people's lives. And the value that they add to people's lives is intrinsic inside of the use case that they have for society. So yes, 100%, these use cases that have this fantastic value for society are going to be there. They're still going to be useful. These blockchain networks they're Metcalfe's law based. So their value comes from the users and how many connections the users are making with each other. That is never going to change. You know, like, if the US dollar goes down, that doesn't drop the value of, drops the value of Google. It doesn't make Google disappear, because Google's still useful to the world, right? So yeah, Tether's going to go, yeah, it's going to knock the markets down for some period of time, but this is just part of the game. This is the roller coaster that we're on, okay? We know this is how the game is played. Just know that and see that there's all of these obstacles that have been left in there, and prep for it and be ready for it, right? So like the way I do it is I just go, okay, where are they keeping their money? Where are they keeping their money? Because, like, you know, they're going to crash this, do all this stuff. Okay, where's your wealth? Okay, well, how are you saving your wealth? Oh, you have it in corporate vehicles that are sitting inside right now, traditional assets. And they're going to crash the stock market, but what are they going to do with stocks, bonds, all these things? As soon as that value is crashed, it's actually going to go to cash. It's already going to cash. That's why the US dollar is rising. That, and once it goes to cash, the next place that it's going to flow to in a big way is going to be cryptocurrencies. So then from cryptocurrencies, where are they going to put their value? They're going to put it back into stable coins. They're going to put it back into maybe US dollars again. And the US dollar is going to be used as like bridge to exit crypto, crash crypto, get back into crypto. And then on this side, exit traditional financial assets while you're sitting in crypto and play this game back and forth. But the eventual goal is to move everything into cryptocurrency. That's why it's the new asset class that's been created. So yeah, the value is going to be there. Are 99% of the DeFi protocols going to be there? No. No, they're not. Any ones that they sue, buy those. Exactly, right? As soon as they came up to Uniswap, I'm like, okay, thank you. They're clearing Uniswap, basically. You know?
Just don't want to get on a tangent, but do you... So... Do you believe as a human family, we still do have some kind of chance to interrupt the pattern with the establishment and kind of create a sort of a alternative network of people
who participate in their economy, while at the same time the establishment will keep on doing what is done forever. But I feel with the technology emerging now on planet Earth, we actually do have a chance to fork from that established power. Can they truly tell people, if they say to us tomorrow, Bitcoin is not regulated, we don't want you to use it, do you think everybody's just going to sell the Bitcoin? Or do you know what I mean? So,
question. First of all, Bitcoin is regulatory. It has regulatory clarity. Bitcoin and Ethereum have both been grandfathered in, so they know they've built that as a vehicle to make sure that they can actually get on that boat and keep themselves there. They're not going to go anywhere. They won't be the top cryptocurrencies in 10 years, but they are going to stay for sure. Pardon? And of course, Shiba Inu. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't buy Shiba Inu because I said that. To answer your first question, are we going? So I love the fact that you said fork. Like now, the way I'm thinking about things now is we're having a humanity hard fork. We're having a total hard fork. There's the people who are going to be completely kept inside of that new slave system that's being built. All the walls are going to be closed and it's going to be turned into the most beautiful prison that's ever existed. It's going to be automated and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy and everything will be shared and drones will come pick you up and Amazon will deliver things to you within moments. And then there's the other side of the hard fork where people will build a new world. So do we have hope? Yes. What we have hope for is to go build that new world. How do I want to build that new world? Not by resisting the world that's being built. The more you try to resist it, the more that you put yourself on radars and you try to, because the ebbs and flows of what's going on have been going on for hundreds of years, thousands of years, but now over hundreds of years, this has taken time to play out. For us to develop the new world, we have to literally build a new way, a better way. So cryptocurrencies and blockchains are going to be part of that process. It is going to require us to effectively build a new internet. Like the guy who invented the internet is building a new internet that won't be able to be controlled the same way the old internet is able to be controlled. So we are going to have to transition to these new technologies and be able to use those things on our own. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be regulatorily compliant? Not according to much of the stuff that they're doing. But I mean, like, how many regulations did you break getting here? Like, did you follow the speed limit? Can you take a photo of a speed limit sign and send it to me if you ever find one in Indonesia? Like, we break rules constantly. Rules are the lines that are given for us to know what we can break so that we can actually live the life that we want to live, right? So the same thing's happening now. Now it's just happening with money. And there's going to be these points where they're not going to let us exit that system smoothly. They're going to try to put roadblocks along the way to try to crush us into submission and using our emotions to actually scare us out of stuff. And it's by doing this kind of stuff where they give us stuff where we go, oh my God, this is so amazing. 90% yields, 90% yields, 90% yields. Have you seen the 1,000,000% yields I'm getting on the thing? And nobody thinks 1,000,000% yield on something. Like, whose money am I taking? Who's the sucker on the other side who I just took the money from, right? And they give us all this stuff, and us and our greed and our emotions, we start participating in it. We get greedier and greedier, and we get more and more invested. And then one day, the wheel stops, and then somebody's left holding the bags, and you hope that you're not the one holding the bags. So that's why I only invest in stuff that I know I can see it lasting 10 years, simply because of the people that are running it, the actual use case, the provability of their implementation in some capacity, and then just sit back and let the magic happen, right? But I'm definitely ready for this stuff. That's why I'm so paranoid about taking profits. I'm like, look, I got profits, I'm taking it. And then if I see things are okay and I'm like, not terrified, then I'll go back in and I'll enter back in and I'll make more. Whereas what everybody does is, I'm gonna sit here, I want it to go higher, I wanna make more, I wanna make more, one day that's exactly the mentality that's gonna make you part of the 90% who lose money and don't make money, right? Because 90% want more. 10% know when to lock in whatever they have, right? So that's all problem. Solutions. USDT should only be used transitorily. Only when you need to get in and out of a market quickly. Do not sit in it for long periods of time, not weeks, not months. I mean, you shouldn't even be sitting in dollars for months on end because they're printing 30% of them at one go. My personal belief is I take profits into USDC when it's on the monthly scale. And then ideally, I like to lock them in as actual US dollars whenever I need to sit on it for anything more than a couple months. And then if it's anything more than like 5-ish months, I'm sitting in gold, depending on where gold is going. Like all of 2020 was a great time to take profits into gold because gold was on the way up. Now gold's being crushed and it's making a bit of a curve. As soon as it's trending upwards again, I'll take my profits back into gold because it's verifiable, it's rare. No, PaxG. Yeah.
What if in the exchange they don't have USDC or UST?
You should be really concerned.
So you have changed the exchange, just exchange the
Not
exchange.
just changing exchange. Who is it? Who's the person doing it? Is it an Indonesian person?
No,
Who's
for example, Indodax, for example, they don't have USDC.
But they have IDR.
They have IDR. Okay, just
Indonesia-backed stable.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? But don't sit in USDT.
Okay.
Because that's actually the one that most of the exchanges actually use.
Right.
At USDT is that when they had a big DeFi hack, the guy took a huge amount of money out of one of the protocols. USDT actually just went click, pushed a button, and
froze it.
Access to that USDT.
Yeah, USDT's own,
I didn't know they could do that.
their own regulations say they have no obligation to give you back your money.
Yeah.
They have no obligation to let you use whatever they want. They can shut you off at any time, whenever they like, and you have absolutely no repercussion. And they are allowed to give you back whatever they feel like giving you back. If it's junk bonds for a company that's bankrupt, they can give you that back, or they can just choose not to give you back anything, right? Whereas like these other coins, like PaxG, their regulations say that they have to give me an ounce of gold. Every time I tell them, here's a token, give me the ounce of gold, they have to ship me the ounce of gold, right? Even USDC, they have to give you dollars. They're legally obligated to give you dollars. So just think about where, I mean, the US dollar, look, we hate the US dollar, but for the next 10 years, it's still going to be the reserve currency of the world. Bitcoin isn't becoming the reserve currency of the world. If a third of the world started using Bitcoin, it would need more power than there exists in the entire world. Nobody's even like done the calculation. It literally would take more power than exists in the entire world to run the network if a third of the world started actually using Bitcoin. So it can't. You know, that's why like, sorry.
My question about because I'm new and I guess I don't know much about that. Just to make it clear, why we not taking our profits to $1? I know dollar is losing the money, but everything with the time is it's basically losing the money, as you said that before. But this is all about security, taxes, or well, why we not really taking?
Take it into dollars. Yeah. Like
Because we pay the same commission, right?
Yeah, the dollar is the best. Like that's how I take my profits whenever I can. The exchanges I use allow me to go to the dollar. Yeah. So I take it in USD. Even though it has USD and USDC, I take it in USD. If I need to move it from one exchange to
option is just to take to a cash to $1. Okay.
It's the most recognized globally regulatorily compliant stablecoin in the world.
So why people they're using the other ones?
Because many of the exchanges that they're using don't allow it. Like on Binance, you can't use it, right? But that should really concern you. Wait, Binance is backed by USDT, and it's the biggest exchange in the world with the most amount of volume going through it, but it's backed by USDT. The day USDT stops working, everybody who's on Binance is not going to have the liquidity to actually be able to get their stuff out. You know, same thing also applies to like Binance Smart Chain. The liquidity bridges that are hooked up to Binance Smart Chain only have a certain amount of liquidity. So if that liquidity dries up, you can't even get off the Binance Smart Chain. And then if USDT dies, you can't even get out of Binance, right? But so now think about that. Why are they allowing some exchanges to allow you to go? Why are they not allowing FTX and Binance? Yeah, it's because they're not made by the banking cartel. You know, they're not the ones that they wanted to see around. That's why they're killing off Binance in all the different countries, and they're coming after it. Same thing with KuCoin, FTX, Bittrex, BitMEX, all of them. I think BitMEX is the one that those guys run, the scammers. But the exchanges that allow you to go to USD, Those exchanges are mostly made by the banking cartels because they want you to come back to the US dollar and they want you to use the US dollar to be able to transact stuff because that's the coin that they control. So whenever you can, yeah, go back to the US dollar. Yeah.
Which exchanges like Kraken?
Yeah, Kraken, Coinbase. Yeah, Kraken's the best.
So, I agree, like USDT, like the backing is not 100%. Like, let's call it 70, 80, 60, like whatever you want. But just to play devil's advocate, could you also say that USDT has an intrinsic value beyond its backing? For example, it has a huge lending market. You can earn 10% a year by holding it. So let's say there's a 20% hole on the balance sheet. In 2 years, you've earned it back. Or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. It has an intrinsic value because we give it an intrinsic value. The moment we lose trust in it and we flood the markets and we have basically a run on the banks and we try to get out of USDT, that's when the problem happens. Because even right now, so what we saw in last Wednesday, $1.6 billion of USDT was dumped onto the market in 5 minutes. That shot the price beyond 55,000. We're all sitting there waiting like, okay, well, I hope Bitcoin moves, and 55,000 is a key level. Somebody dumps $1.6 billion of USDT onto the market through China in 5 minutes onto not even onto the OTC exchanges, onto the actual market, and takes a shit ton of slippage. And what that means is like you're paying you increase the price yourself as you're making this giant purchase. And they basically manipulated the market up and caused it to fly higher. And that caused everybody to go like, oh my God, we're going to the moon, let's jump in. And everybody started piling in. And we're seeing this price action happen where, it's kind of going sideways and then you see this big candle. That big candle isn't a bunch of like people who are coordinating together to do it. It's market manipulators using a worthless asset and they're dumping it onto the market because they've made a bunch of it through these kind of schemes where you're getting these kind of returns. The value is there as long as nobody goes and tries to ask for their money back. But the day the day they just announced like we're coming after USDT, guess what? It's not backed by anything or whatever. They put out a media campaign around it. All the people who are holding it at that point are going to be the biggest losers in that whole process. So it doesn't actually have intrinsic value, because what does it do? It literally allows you to simply subvert the US dollar and allows you to go participate in these markets where there's yield created out of thin air. But when you actually look at like, okay, who is the person who's creating that yield? Who's paying me that much? Staking, I get it. Staking, you're actually securing the network and you're getting some of the transaction fees. But these yields that are coming out of an asset that's worthless in the first place, and at the same time, they're printing more and more of it and pumping it into the system. And you think you're getting USDT from the other side, but it's actually just printed fake dollars, kind of like the US dollar, but the US dollar has intrinsic value too, until we all go to the banks and ask for it. Like right now, people I'm working with, we're all asking the banks like, we want our dollars out. And they're all like, no, you can't get your dollars out. I'm like, why? I'm like, where do you want to take it? Why are you taking all your money out? So when that same process applies, you do that to the banks and the US dollar falls apart, same thing is going to happen to USDT. It doesn't actually have value on its own. It just simply has value because of the Ponzi schemes that have been set up around it.
Just to add one more point, if I may. I actually agree with you, but for argument's sake, if there's X percentage of tethers are not backed by anything, it's fugazi, and they're using it to buy.
95% of tethers are not backed by anything.
So it would depend how many people are holding Tether and how many people have already used it to buy another asset. But if you've leveraged and borrowed Tether to buy Bitcoin, then you're long Bitcoin, you're short Tether. And then if Tether goes down, happy days. Doesn't really make much difference to you, right?
Yeah, but
you're only holding the bag if you hold Tether on its own.
So I use the USDT market to go and buy Tether, or go and buy Bitcoin with the Tether. And I inflated the value of Bitcoin up to $60,000 from whatever, $10,000. And then the asset that I used to actually buy it to make most of the transactions in the cryptocurrency world is no longer valid. It completely disappears. That destabilizes the market to a point where people are going to have a run on Bitcoin. They're going to say, okay, well, if this thing was bought using worthless stuff, I need to get out of it to lock in my profits. People are then going to run to all these other stable coins and actually lock in their profits. And that's going to cause the actual crash or the temporary correction of cryptocurrency, or at least, yeah, exactly. And the value of Bitcoin didn't change. It's been, the actual value was inflated through these artificial transfers, where like I dump 1.6 billion, now it's worth 60,000. Dump another billion, now it's worth 70,000. And I can keep doing this to a point where I artificially inflate the value up to a point. And the person who's doing that is going to be taking their profits early before everyone else. They're going to take their profits at the top. And as the prices start dropping, everybody else who's been holding the bags is going to pay the price for their profits. And they're going to get their profits and they're going to get out of the market. It's the people on the lower rungs who don't even know what's going on. And they're the ones who always panic sell the bottom. And those are the people that are going to lose most of their value, right? Now, the guy who's bought their Bitcoin and he's bought it from 10K and he wrote it up to 70 or 100, and then this thing comes home to roost, and then it crashes back down to, I don't know, 30, 40, and then he just holds it and waits another year, 2 years, and the market stabilizes. He's not even going to notice this thing happening. It's going to be perfectly fine. So the value of these coins is intrinsic for the good ones, the ones that are actually adding value to society, but it's been inflated using these artificial assets, right? And that in and of itself is a problem. Now, I am not an intelligent enough economist to really describe to you how the actual fundamentals of this thing works. I just know, like, if you take something that's worthless that they're printing out of thin air and you use that to tell me that the value of something that's actually valuable is going up, like NFTs and all these things, you know, like we know that there's going to be a point where these things are going to crash down to a more realistic value, a more real value of what's actually going on. So same thing with Bitcoin, same thing with crypto. When this happens, they're actually going to crash the market. And that's the plan. The plan is to literally, like, it's not us that hold billions of dollars of Tether. We don't have $70 billion of Tether. It's these exchanges and these institutions and these kind of market manipulators who hold most of it. They dump it onto the markets, drive the prices up, take their profits at the top, and when they start taking profits, causes the market to crash back down. Then they're the ones sitting with cash on the sidelines, buying it off of good people because they lost their life savings on the way down, right? And that's the concerning part. So, like, simple way of not having that happen is take your damn profits. If you use Tether and you get onto the ship, or use anything, get onto the ship and the thing's going up, take your profits, get out of the market. Somebody else is going to hold the bags. It's sad, it's depressing that, like, good people who don't know what they're doing, who are going to enter between now and whenever they crash this thing, they're going to be fucked, right? Yeah, you're the best, right?
I got a question from someone here in Zoom. So what do you think about the US debt ceiling and how is it going to affect crypto?
I think the US debt is as much of a non-issue as anything has ever been. Like, as an American, I've seen this debt ceiling thing come up every like little while, and then they kind of scurry around, oh my God, something's going to happen. US can't default on its debt because they print the money. Like, it's just, that just doesn't make sense. So if they're telling you the debt ceiling is a problem, then it's not the problem. They want you to look at it, right? What's the problem is the stuff that they're not telling you about completely. So it's going to be a complete non-issue. I mean, they might use it to like cause some FUD on the markets and cause some problems, but in the long term, they're just going to keep inflating the debt. And that's why the US dollar is going to take probably the next 15 years to die, because when currencies hyperinflate in any fiat currency system, it will inflate. First, it inflates slowly, and then over time, it inflates faster and faster. When you apply that metric to the US dollar, it's going to take about 15 years for them to print 10 to 15 times as many dollars that exist today. And by that, until that time, they're just going to keep printing this thing into non-existence. And for that, they need to keep raising the debt ceiling. Amazing. Any other questions? Yeah.
Beautiful presentation.
Thank
You see, oh, sorry. You say this 1.6 billion that dumped to the USDT. Can you see also in the chart when it has happened, like the candle? Can you show it?
It's one candle and just goes straight up.
Can you show it maybe?
It went up, not down.
Sound? We've lost Sim.
It's probably one of these candles. But research it yourself. Google it. Google $1.6 billion dumped of Tether dumped into the markets on Wednesday. That made the price go up. That it actually shot through 55K. So it was like one of these.
Sam, are you going to do a market analysis? Like
Yeah,
you usually do?
I'll do it today. Yeah. Sorry, I was away for a bit and didn't get a chance to do it.
And the other thing with the Tether, because I've been digging into Tether all year, and
Yeah.
it's been a nasty thing to try and research. It's not easy to get good information, but they have been going into Bitfinex, and Bitfinex has been swapping that stuff around. But what's been happening is they've been sucking the bitcoins out. They've been taking that out to Bitfinex, so literally washing the money and taking it back out to value.
Well, also here's how I would launder a shit ton of money through Tether. I would set up a Chinese company. I would inflate the value of the Chinese company. I would sell that collateralized debt or corporate bonds to Tether. I would get a bunch of Tethers. I would turn it into Bitcoin. And now I've officially I've laundered a bunch of money and I've got Bitcoin for it. And some other person on the other side thinks that Bitcoin's worth more, so they buy it for even more. And then later on, when I crash it, I get to keep my Bitcoin. That person loses their house savings. And they're the ones who paid for my Bitcoin. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
So it's not really a question, but I would like to pick your brain on we have roughly $1 trillion in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We have roughly $1 trillion worth of value in Bitcoin market cap. And we see here that 1.6 billion is moving the market by about 5%. And so I know a lot of us don't really understand market cap and liquidity in depth, because we would assume we need 5% of $1 trillion to see this price movement, whereas in actuality we just need 1% or 2% of that.
Again, I'm not a super expert on this, but here's how I understand it. First of all, if Bitcoin is at $1 trillion market cap, Bitcoin doesn't actually have $1 trillion sitting inside of it. That's just the value that it would be if we all sold it magically at this moment today. It's the hypothetical value, but it can never be realized because as you sell it, the prices come down. From the realized value charts that we have, which are again approximate, where you take the value of the Bitcoin the last time it actually moved, which still is technically hypothetical, but the closest number we have is like $400 something billion of actual value in there. It's probably even less than that. It's probably around like 300. I would put it around 300, probably even less than that, of actual money that flowed into Bitcoin. You don't have to dump 5% of the value of Bitcoin to change the value of Bitcoin this much. You simply have to find a point, and this is why this happened right here. This level, exactly where it happened for a reason. Because there's two markets. There's the spot market, and then there's the futures markets. And this is also where Tether is a massive problem, because Tether is used to manipulate the futures markets in a massive way. You use Tether and then you use leverage to increase your ability to fuck with the markets way beyond what you're actually putting in. And then if you print Tether from a fake spot, now you have a bunch of market power, purchasing power that you've created out of thin air. And that's one of the biggest problems. But there's two markets. There's a spot market and then there's the futures market. The spot market is tied to the futures market because if somebody wants to short or long the market, they're going to put in orders on the futures markets and they're going to add leverage to it so they can actually make a bigger difference than the money that they actually put into it. Now, if I'm a smart guy and I know the price, people are expecting the price to kind of correct back down from 55, I would go in and I would put in leverage longs on 55,100. And I would say, if it hits this price, I'll leverage myself 10x and I'll put $1 billion over here. Let's say I put $1 billion of Tether over here and I say, I'll leverage it 10x, that I bet the price goes up. Over here, the price is below 54,000. I simply have to put in $1 billion to nudge the price higher beyond the 55,000 mark. And there's a bunch of orders sitting on the other side, purchase orders on the spot and the futures markets that are going to cascade down and drive the price higher. Now, I basically added $1 billion over here, but over here I earned 10 billion. And then I get to play this game again. So these cascades are one of the big things that most of us don't understand in this market. And that's part of this whole manipulation. That when I see these things where the market just goes, it just rockets upwards and then it goes sideways and then it rockets upwards, that's manipulation. Like normal price action goes like this. And then it kind of goes down, like people are buying and selling and it goes in these like little levels. It doesn't go in these straight candles. Those straight candles are, and we've been having that a lot now. Like all the price action we've had this cycle has just been, it was just parabolic straight up and then correction. And then up and correction, up, correction, up, correction, correction. Sideways for a bit and then up. And then we were just having these massive moves. And I'm not saying that it's not driven by a lot of retail FOMO going into there, but a lot of it is institutional grade manipulation. But you know what comes with the institutional grade manipulation? Manipulating the news, manipulating the regulators, manipulating the world, and like having narratives that you think they pay hundreds of billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to organizations to come up with strategies for nothing. They come up with strategies where they know like, okay, here's how we're going to manipulate the mindset of the people. Here's how we're going to leave this for years. And we know this is a fucked up thing that's going on with Tether. First of all, it allows us to launder a lot of money because, the biggest money laundering schemes in the world are the banks. They launder all the money in the world, actually. So they allow things to kind of go, and they have bigger plans of like, don't worry, in a couple of years, we'll knock them down, and then we'll come back and buy all this stuff up. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm so paranoid right now. Because if I'm them, the smartest thing I would do is I would figure out like, when do you think it's going to peak? December. Okay. Make it peak earlier than December. Simple as that. I'll front run the whole market. Oh, guess what? Wall Street Bets thinks on 420 they're gonna pump Dogecoin. Okay, put $50 billion into Dogecoin a month and a half ahead of their 420 date, and let them come in with their pennies, thinking they're gonna like change the world and stuff, and then take their life savings and run away with it, right? And this is just how the game is played. The moment we think something's gonna happen, they're gonna front run us completely. But the thing is, they can't just front run us and like completely knock the market down and run away. They have to front run us, and then they have to convince us, no, you didn't just get front ran. Don't worry, put more in. Oh, look, it's going up, it's going up. It's gonna leave without you. You getting on or what? And then we're like, yeah, let me get on there. And they're like, oh, you're not convinced yet? Here's $1 billion of Tether. Are you convinced yet? There's another billion of Tether. Are you convinced yet? There's another billion of Tether. And then eventually all of us are like, yeah, 100%, I want to be on this ship. And we all jump on and we all get on there. And then and what did we do? Did we have any profits along the way? No. They're the ones who, so like, do you guys go whale watching? It's one of my favorite activities, right? Especially on crypto.
I love panic selling. That's my favourite hobby. I do love a panic selling.
As you know, first,
a couple of weeks ago, the whales were grazing, weren't they?
yeah, the sharks were grazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know sharks don't graze, but like, you get the idea. But this is addresses with 100 Bitcoin. Okay. It was much easier to have 100 Bitcoin in the last cycle. This time around, they pretty much dumped from here all the way down to here. So we dumped all the way from like, what is this? The April mark? They were kind of going up until January. And from January until now, they've just been dumping downwards. Now we've seen this uptick. This was giving me a lot of hope. This is still giving me a lot of hope. And I'm thinking, okay, is this people fleeing the traditional markets? This could be a lot of Chinese inflows coming in from people, because we're seeing some movement out of China. This could be a lot of people coming out of China, or like value coming out. We don't know for sure. Regardless, pardon? This is sharks. Yeah, this is 100 Bitcoin or more. And this also includes the bigger guys too, but like, you know, this chart is more reflective of down to the 100 Bitcoin mark. So we saw this, you know, this pump, and we went from 15,800 to like, we had 300 more accounts that had 100 Bitcoin. Okay, so that's 30,000 Bitcoin, about 30,000 Bitcoin, right? At the same time, we had a little bump in, so the people with 1,000 Bitcoin or more, they actually bought into the, while the prices were going down, and then they dumped as the prices went up. And they tend to always lead the market. Look at how well they led the market ahead of time. They're the ones who I look at to be like, what the fuck are they doing? Because they're the ones with the real money. 100 Bitcoin, I could dump like a few billion of Tether onto the market and buy 100 Bitcoin and put it into accounts. 1,000 Bitcoin, that's a decent bit of Tether to scam into. 10,000 Bitcoins, okay, now we're really getting into the big boy scales. You know what they've done? They've dumped and they ain't touching shit. So if this market's supposed to go to the moon, how come they didn't jump back in? What do they know that I don't know?
But it's hard to say they're not dumping the Bitcoin to buy something else, right? Like a Solana.
It could be, but then the price of Solana should skyrocket. Solana did go through its parabolic run, which was another really concerning thing for me, because a month or so after we see a parabolic run in Bitcoin, we're supposed to see altcoins run, or like at some time later we see altcoins run. We've seen these altcoins go through these parabolic moves on their own. They've gone through their parabolic runs. It's just not as like beautifully synchronized as it was before, because we're all expecting a 2017 run. But Bitcoin peaks, and all the indicators, everything shows Bitcoin as the peak. And then we have a 50% drop, which is normally a bear market. And then we have months of sideways action where we never get back to the all-time high. And we're all still just waiting like, yeah, well, I hope this thing goes to the moon now. But all those indicators are telling me that no, this seems like they just executed, they front ran the market, and they're now basically doing a dead cat bounce. These guys front ran the market and dumped into all that mania and are sitting on the sidelines. These guys beautifully executed an exit on the market and then came down. Even these guys executed beautifully, and now they're coming back up. So, and then we had the altcoins run, and we had the altcoins go parabolic. So what I'm thinking is like, this is some kind of like double peak cycle, but there should be some kind of a correction that happens along the way, because, and we looked at all this data last time, but the retail FOMO isn't there. Like the traditional world, other than the crypto heads out there, aren't dying to jump back in. Like this could definitely also be the crypto heads coming back, but like, we don't know. That's why for me, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting on the sidelines. Like, yeah, okay, you know, I didn't get this bump. I don't care. Like, yeah, I came from here. Like, why the fuck would I care about this? What I'd rather do is lock in the value that I came from here to here. I locked it in right here last time, and then we bought in down here, and now we're selling here. So like, why would you like? I'm counting the chickens that I actually hatched, right? And now this thing, if it shoots up to the moon, great, fantastic. Let's get back on the ship. Let's go back into price discovery. Things are all different. But at the same time as this is happening, stocks are taking a tumble. Facebook has taken a tumble. And the biggest indicator that usually is an exact opposite of what Bitcoin does, the dollar is on an upwards trajectory. And it's about to put in numbers that we haven't seen for a long, long time. That should be concerning as fuck. Because everybody's sitting there watching the crypto world, and we're always like, crypto, crypto, crypto. I want it to go up. I want my $2 trillion drop in the bucket to go to $3 trillion drop in the bucket. Well, there's a freaking $1.2 quadrillion ocean out there that's making its own waves and moving a certain way, and we're not paying attention to any of that. So as far as I'm concerned, when this is going up and the stocks are going down, where crypto has been correlated with these things and inversely correlated to this, I get concerned. And I got profits, so I'm sitting on the sidelines with them.
Then when the deflation does, when the dollar goes up and the stock goes down, and some people, all in the news is all about inflation, but maybe what's really going on is the deflation, and that's why the banks are not giving out loans.
Yep.
That's why the banks are keeping all the cash.
Yep.
Everybody gets into stocks on crypto, but then later crashes, the dollar is worth everything, and then they're going to buy everything with the dollars.
Yep.
Because they're worth so much.
Yep. So deflate all the assets. Here's how I make sure you own nothing. I deflate the value of your assets. Those escape vehicles that you went to because you're thinking the dollar's going to go. No, first I'm going to crush your assets, deflate the value of the assets. Deflation of asset value means crypto goes down, at least for some short period of time. And the dollar goes up. And as the dollar goes up, it destroys most of the economies in the world because their US denominated debt is harder for them to pay. The purchasing power of the US goes up. So everybody rushes from those currencies into the US dollar. And then they literally have nowhere to go. And then I take the next 10 years to inflate away the value of the US dollar with no escape places for you to go. Now, crypto is one of the few places that isn't going to just sit there the whole time. It's an actual asset. And same thing with real estate and gold. I mean, gold they can kind of manipulate through paper trading, but crypto's they're gonna try to depress the value of it constantly. There is going to be a point where the dollar kind of takes a bit of a break and starts to go downwards. And at that point, crypto will start to go upwards in a big way, right? That's why I think this thing is going to take probably the next year to play out over the bigger scale. And for us to sit here and think that December is going to be the time, the best thing to do would be to actually convince people that December is a period and then dump on them during December and cause them to panic sell because people think, oh my God, did I miss the December pump? And then once people capitulate, everybody's sold, everybody hates crypto, they think it's garbage. At that point, they come in and buy it up, the institutions clean it up, and we see these 10,000 and 1,000 accounts shoot off to the moon, right?
There's a question where you can see the whale watching without watching the last much there referring thing or not as much as one.
Sorry, can't watch whales for free. You gotta get the tickets.
Why is it actually pumping so much and printing so much money? They've been non-stop printing. They're printing more money in existence than even more than World War II.
Most of the money in the world is not printed. Most of the money that exists in the world is actually created through loans, right, by banks. So they can print the supply as much as they like. Number one, the velocity of the supply isn't that high. So I can print a shit ton of money, but if it isn't exchanging hands fast enough, that still isn't going to create the kind of economic activity to create the inflation that we're talking about right away. Later on, once I kick it on, then once I pump all this money in and it's sitting stable, it doesn't create inflation. And then when people start using all that money, then it creates inflation because the prices of everything goes up. But secondly, most of the money in the world is created when debt is generated by a bank. And not a central bank, an actual bank creates most of the money into existence the moment a loan is given. When that process slows down, the actual inflation goes down because people literally are not able to go out and apply that purchasing power, right? So the same thing's happening now. Again, I'm not the expert. Go listen to bond experts. Go listen to those guys. They'll explain this way better than me. All I know is we thought inflation's coming. Guess what's coming? Not inflation. Yeah. We think it's going to the moon. Guess where it's going? Not to the moon. The day we think it's not going to the moon, and this is where the psychology piece has been really crucial for me. I just wait until everybody's telling me something, and I go well, then that's definitely not going to happen. And I will bet on it because usually the exact opposite of what everybody thinks happens, like clockwork, because that's exactly the psychology that you need to have. Last year people were nobody even talked about crypto. Who? It was Bitcoin. I don't know what a Bitcoin is. Now I literally have soccer moms I want to get some Bitcoins. And I'm now's not the best of times. I don't know, but get started. It's going to take us 3 months to get you up to speed, but let's see what happens, right? Now, this is all just short term. This is when short term is less than a year. Now, less than 6 months. On the short term, yeah, there's turbulence. Could be all these things. In the long term, we are at the beginning of the implementation of the third stage of the internet. We're about to literally be part of a generation that will implement the next stage of the internet, everything from gold to oil to internet to apps to websites to money to every single thing in the world is being reinvented in front of our eyes. So it's easy to lose the bigger picture on the smaller kind of time frame and be like, oh, like, you know, it's going to go down, it's going to go up. Look, and if you just participate in this thing and don't panic sell the bottoms within the next 10 years, you can pretty much close your eyes and pick the good projects. Otherwise, you will lose all of your money. Pick the good projects, and those projects will make you wealthy beyond all of your wildest dreams. Now, there are going to be a lot of hurdles along the way, which you need to prepare for ahead of time. That's what we're talking about Tether today. That's a hurdle. It's a simple hurdle. You just get through it by you know, first of all, taking profits along the way. Secondly, locking your profits in places which aren't exposed to Tether in the same way. Thirdly, you know, the moment, if you have profit sitting there and Tether pin gets pulled, guess who the happiest guy in the room is? You are, because you got cash sitting on the sidelines. When everybody's running from cryptocurrency, you know it's the best time to buy, the COVID times. Now, what other hurdles are coming? Regulation is going to be the next hurdle that's coming. It's going to stop you from doing what you mostly want to do. CBDCs and control of the system is going to be the next hurdle. Okay, I become a corporation. Okay, I'm going to become a corporation. I'm going to play on the corporate level. I'm going to stop playing as a person. Now my government can't control my wallet. Stocks are going to crash and all these things are going to crash. Great. Fantastic. That's how I need the money to flow from there into cryptocurrency. That's how the money comes out. So like when they crash, sure, crypto crashes with it. It's supposed to crash with it. But the next thing that happens is when the purchasing starts on the other side of the dip, most of that, not most of the money, because that's too much money, a lot of the money will flow out from stocks over to cryptocurrency. And I think the next 4 years are going to be, I think we're kind of misunderstanding this whole idea of like bull markets and bear markets. It's going to be bull market, correction, bull market, correction, 2024 bull market, correction, bull market. You know, and that's technically what we've been in for the last 10 years. Look at a logarithmic chart of Bitcoin. We have been in one giant bull market. You just have to zoom out enough. You know?
Because isn't it Bitcoin, 10 years, 200% gain every year?
Yep, 213% gain every year. Yeah. Yeah.
Why even question it? Why hold on, don't panic sell?
Yeah, exactly. If you got,
Is that like stressful while they're getting altcoins? So one of my questions is like, myself, I'm like, why wouldn't I just like put everything in Bitcoin and go to?
That's a great question. That's a fantastic question. The question is, why don't people just get altcoins? And why?
When people get altcoins.
Oh, sorry. Why do people get altcoins?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Why don't you just go in Bitcoin? If it's having this 200 thing.
What are you trying to make the most of? You're trying to make more dollars, or are you trying to make more Bitcoin?
Real money.
Which is Bitcoin.
To build real things.
Wealth. Trying to generate more wealth.
Yeah.
Purchasing power. Prosperity. Okay. You can generate that by generating more dollars or generating more Bitcoin. At this point, those things are equivalent in some capacity. They're becoming more and more distant, where generating more Bitcoin actually makes you more dollars than by just trying to generate more dollars. How do I make more Bitcoin? Not by holding Bitcoin. I want to make more bricks of gold. Do I go buy one brick of gold to try to make more bricks of gold?
Well, if it's growing 200% a year.
Yeah, but Ether's crushed that. There's one brick of gold is always one brick of gold. I want to make more bricks of gold. It's growing at 200% a year in dollars, but dollars are losing 30% last year, 30% this year. Okay, that means I made 170%. Okay, but next year they're going to print 100%. Okay, now I'm only making 200%. And now the growth of Bitcoin is slowing down. And I'm getting to a point where I'm actually making more dollars, but that's like making more Indonesian rupiah. Like, do you really want it? Right? But the other side of it is also, I want more bricks of gold. The way I make more bricks of gold is I go buy stuff that appreciates faster than bricks of gold, and then I go and buy bricks of gold when times are bad. When times are bad, I sit in gold because it's a safe place to be. I don't care about growth. When times are good, I sell my gold and I go buy crypto, which makes me more bricks of gold. And that's what altcoins are. And the other thing is like when you're looking at exponential growth curves, they go like this. This is just how exponential networks grow. This is also similar to how Facebook, Google, Airbnb would have grown. Exponential growth curves are super fast here because you're going from like, cents to dollars to tens of dollars, right? And it takes very small amount of liquidity to actually make it move that much. But it's super high risk. I don't know if it's going to make it. That's why nobody bought Bitcoin back in 2010, 2012. Up here, the growth, that's why it's a curve like this. The growth starts to slow down, but I'm going from, tens of dollars to thousands of dollars. But up here, now I'm going from, tens of thousands of dollars to more tens of thousands of dollars, and it takes more and more liquidity for things to grow, right? So altcoins, the new coins are down here in the growth curve. That's why they make you the most amount of money, and they make you the most amount of Bitcoin. I like starting to get involved in things right around here. Once I know somebody else has taken this whole risk, they haven't been scammed, and they have regulatory compliance or something, I like getting involved somewhere around here. And then by the time we get to like around here, I'm out. Well, and here's the other reason why I don't want to sit in Bitcoin. Everybody wants Bitcoin, so I don't want it. Because everybody wants it.
But there's demand, so your Bitcoin has a higher value.
If everybody knows about it, I don't want it. Right? Everybody knows about Bitcoin. You're like, you know what Ether is? Like, no. I'm like, okay, I'll go buy some Ether. Do you know what XRP? No, it has a lawsuit against it. I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to buy. Right now, you tell people buy gold. They're like, no, gold sucks. Silver sucks. Okay, best time to buy gold and silver. Absolutely. Complete contrarian. Because if everybody's doing something, you want to do the exact opposite of that. Thank you. And that's it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys.